So, on Sunday, as reports of more parties began to circulate in the media, the Mail on Sunday reported that the government was planning to freeze the BBC's licence fee. Given that inflation is currently running pretty hot, the latest ONS figures put CPI at about 5.1%, the highest in a decade. This freeze will amount to a real terms cut of billions of pounds. This report was essentially confirmed by a tweet from the Culture Secretary, Nadine Dorries, who added that in 2027, when the current funding agreement between the BBC and the government expires, the licence fee will be scrapped, marking an end to what she described as the elderly being threatened with prison sentences. So in this video, we're going to be looking at two things. First, the politics of this decision. After all, it's probably not a coincidence that the government's announcing this controversial plan while its popularity is tanking and all anyone can talk about are the numerous number 10 parties. And second, whether or not it's actually a good idea. Want to remember the parties we weren't invited to? Check out the number 10 parties tour shirts and posters, and 50% goes to the National Emergencies Trust COVID appeal. The link to that is in the description below. So let's get into the politics of all this. The policy announcement has been widely perceived as a political dead cat, something that the government has dropped in to distract people from the ongoing Partygate scandal, which is currently crashing the government's poll ratings and fueling endless speculation about whether Boris Johnson will resign or be kicked out. The last three polls gave Labour a 10-point, 13-point and 10-point lead respectively. Opinion polling from the 12th to the 14th of January found that Johnson's approval rating has hit an all-time low of -42, the same as the lowest score recorded for Theresa May, and that 63% of the public think he should resign, including 48% of 2019 Conservative voters. The point we're making is that this announcement was clearly intended to distract from the current set of scandals. We should say that this isn't just us being paranoid politicos either. A government source told The Guardian that this announcement wasn't due for a few more weeks, and that it was moved up the agenda to distract from the current crisis, while the Sunday Times reported that this was just a slew of populist right-wing policies to be announced this week, including sending the military to help tackle cross-channel migration, training schemes for universal credit claimants, whose benefits was recently cut by £20 a week, and the much-delayed Levelling Up white paper. These policies would all be part of what's apparently known in number 10 as Operation Red Meat, which essentially involves throwing the right wing of the Tory party and parts of the right-wing media red meat policies in order to save Johnson's tottering premiership. This is to go along with the somewhat embarrassingly named Operation Save Big Dog. Yep, the Prime Minister of the UK apparently calls himself Big Dog, which allegedly involves blaming and sacking a load of number 10 aides for the various Partygate scandals, allowing Johnson to avoid some of the blame. So, is attacking the BBC going to help Johnson? Well, it'll make him popular among parts of the right-wing press, who've for years argued that the BBC crowds out private media businesses, although it's worth noting that a KPMG report found no evidence of this. According to a report in the Daily Mail, Rupert Murdoch encouraged Johnson to get rid of the BBC while visiting him in his country house, and Murdoch held 6 private meetings with George Osborne back in mid-2015, just before Osborne forced the BBC to pay for the free licence fee for over 75s in July of that year. It'll also endear Johnson to the right wing of the Conservative Party, who've accused the BBC of being too left-wing on cultural issues and too Remain-leaning when it comes to Brexit. Nadine Dorries herself described the BBC as a biased left-wing organisation which is seriously failing in its political representation, and described the licence fee as more in keeping with a Soviet-style country. In March, Boris Johnson accused the BBC of an anti-Brexit metropolitan bias. This isn't a new phenomenon in the Conservative Party. Back in the 80s, Norman Tebbit called the BBC the Stateless Persons Broadcasting Corporation because of what he regarded as its unpatriotic coverage of the Falklands War, and Conservative MP Peter Broonvels called it the Bolshevik Broadcasting Corporation. Now, it's worth saying here that left-wingers also accuse the BBC of an establishment bias towards the Conservatives. After all, the current Director General, Tim Davie, is a former Conservative Party councillor, and the current chairman, Richard Sharp, has donated over £400,000 to the Conservative Party since 2001. Leaving aside whether or not the Conservative Party's qualms are legitimate, attacking the BBC doesn't look like a great political strategy. While right-wing corners of the media and Tory party might not like it, the BBC is pretty well liked amongst the general public. While it suffered a bit from the Jimmy Savile and Martin Bashir scandals, the BBC is still popular, at least compared to other media outlets. The 2021 Reuters digital report, in collaboration with Oxford University, found that the BBC are one of the most trusted media outlets in the UK. 62% of Brits trust the BBC, the highest of all media outlets, and by far and away the most used. 57% of Brits use a BBC, TV or radio service at least once a week, nearly double that of second-placed ITV News at 31%. Also, it doesn't take a political whiz to know that attacking David Attenborough, The Great British Bake Off and Match of the Day isn't going to go down all that well with the UK public. So that's the politics of this policy, but what about its actual merits? Well, replacing the licence fee isn't actually a bad idea. For those of you who don't live in the UK, the licence fee is something that every UK household pays if they watch TV or use BBC services. It costs £159 a year, or 43 pence a day, and raises some £3.2 billion a year, which accounts for most of the BBC's funding. Not paying is a criminal offence, with a maximum fine of £1,000, and older people often experience anxiety about not paying their licence fee and being prosecuted. But in a time when most people mainly use smartphones and laptops for watching content, a TV licence does seem a bit outdated, which is why other European countries like Germany and Ireland are currently moving away from the TV licence model towards a sort of universal levy, which is a practice which is pretty similar to general taxation. However, cutting funding, which is what this freeze does in real terms, isn't obviously a good idea. The BBC has already had its public funding cut by 30% in real terms since 2010, despite the fact that, according to a PwC report, the BBC's gross value added is twice the cost of the licence fee. Essentially, that the BBC is net profitable to the UK economy, largely thanks to its generous investment in UK cultural exports. Now, we should say that measuring gross value added is difficult and a bit fluffy, as it's measuring the cultural value of the BBC in economic terms. But importantly, this figure has never really been challenged. But anyway, what do you think? Is this a good political strategy? And is the policy itself reasonable? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. People across the UK have been furious about the parties held in number 10. We were locked at home and we weren't allowed to see loved ones while they partied. So if you want to remember the parties we missed and get money to those in need of COVID support, then check out our number 10 Parties Tour shirt and posters. They feature all of the parties that we know about so far and hopefully look pretty cool too. The link's in the description, and 50% of the profits go to the National Emergencies Trust COVID appeal, which helps those in the UK whose lives were affected during the pandemic. Thanks for your support. As always, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers for making videos like this one possible, and if you want to see your name at the end of videos just like these people, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that is in the description below.